Now, it's the big unresolved issue of the Troubles, how to deal with the legacy of the past, the victims, the survivors, the inquiries, the investigations. This Wednesday, the body charged with finding a solution publishes its report, but its contents have already been well trailed, including the most controversial proposal to offer £12,000 payments to the next of kin of all those killed during the conflict. Sinn Féin's Gerry, a junior minister in the Office of First and Deputy First Minister, is with me now. You're very welcome. Your department, in a sense, has responsibility here, although this is a report that will go to the British Government. But what's your view then on this idea of a payment to next of kin?
Well, I do think it's important to say at the start that there was a lot of concern within the nationalist community about this body being set up in the first place, although we have met Eames Bradley on a number of occasions. And the worry about it was actually that it was set up by the British Government and it reports to the British Government. In terms of, we have a leaked document and sometimes it's quite difficult, and I know it's been talked about over the weekend and that, and the concentration is down to this £12,000. What we want is a victims-based process. I've heard many people on over the weekend saying, I think exactly what I would support, which is that the issue here is truth, that you will find that most families want to know the truth of what happened, and that while the £12,000 may not be relevant, it is certainly very late. And I don't think it is the issue for most people. I know it's become a controversial issue, but certainly it will not replace the lack of discovery or the lack of truth for people who want to know what happened to their loved ones, right across the border and right across the island.
What do you think the chances are of it actually being adopted?
Well, I don't know. In fairness to the report, and we have had our difficulties with the way it was set up, we have said it has to be victims-based, there has to be a neutrality or an independence in it, and there should be an international aspect to it, and needs to deal with the cause of conflict. Now, setting aside the controversial issue here, if it deals with that in the round, then at least let us look at that. I don't know. We have been dealing with this, and I also realise that when I've described it myself as a leaked document, it was actually a briefing that was given out, which makes it more difficult, and I understand obviously why the press are on it. But let's see what's in it outside of the £12,000. I don't think that the £12,000 is going to solve anything. I think that's very, very clear. And in fact, I agree with the comment that someone said if you put an amount of money down the table to a family, it can be more divisive than actually unifying. But in fairness to the report, I think we need to look at it in the whole.
Well, in the whole, they are talking about, in a sense, trying to wrap everything into one recovery process that would involve truth, may also involve investigations, and it would put a time limit on that of 5 years. Is that reasonable?
Well, let's look at the difficulty, because there is a huge amount of controversy over the amount of money, for instance, in the Savile inquiry and other inquiries. Why was that money necessary? Because the British government simply would not tell the truth, because they resisted at every single action and prolonged the whole process, lost files, lost forensic weapons, allegedly lost all of these things. These things could have been done much cheaper if the issue of truth had been at the core of this, and if we had been able to get, for instance, release the documentation. Don't use the 30-year rule to hold on to it. Allow the inquest to happen on the people who have been killed by state forces. All of that would loosen it up, and it would certainly save a very, very substantial amount of money.
Sinn Féin has consistently called for an independent international commission. Now, the Eames Bradley proposal for this legacy commission would be a 3-person commission headed by an international figure. So, do you think it will be likely that Republicans will cooperate in terms of truth recovery with such a body?
Well, we have also been very consistent in saying if we get to the point where there is a credible, independent and international group in which looks at truth recovery, that everyone involved in the conflict has to be very truthful in this. But let me make this clear, because you see the British government, in even appointing this group, are trying to say that they were not involved in this. They were a combatant force in this conflict, which means that there is a very substantial responsibility on the British government to come clean in all of this as well.
But of course people will be looking, I mean, you yourself were an IRA prisoner. You know the minds of people who have been in the IRA. Will they want to have anything to do with telling the story of what they were involved in?
Well, I think you already have examples of it already being done. And let's be clear about this, because the argument, if you like, is very skewed. When you think in terms of the number of prisoners, I think conservatively, it's something like 15,000 people went through, from a nationalist side, a Republican side, went through the jails. Then there is a substantial number of stories where there is a substantial number of evidence already there and documented. Where is the secrecy? Where have the inquiries had to happen? They've had to happen where the information was not there. And then I don't want to dismiss it all, but certainly proportionately, the massive proportion of holding back evidence is actually from the British government, and that's the difficulty here. They keep talking as if they are some sort of a neutral force, when in fact they were a combatant force, and the British government needs to come clean and all of that. What is all the resistance? Where has all the resistance come from? All the resistance has come from the British government in this, and they actually changed the Inquiries Act on the Pat Finucane case specifically. The killing of a human rights lawyer whose anniversary is actually just coming up in the next couple of weeks, so that they would not have to give the truth about that very matter, when in fact all journalists, most of the public actually know that there are 4 people already named for the killing, that at least 3 of them were state agents. They still won't come across.
What about the whole issue of dealing with the past and victims? I mean, in your office, you chose to appoint 4 victims commissioners because perhaps you couldn't agree with the DUP on one. We've got a report now which
what
goes
we did was we agreed with the DUP
on 4.
On 4.
OK, well, let's take that at face value then. But the British government received this report from Eames Bradley. It doesn't report to the Assembly. Who has the final say in all of this, and at what stage can we say there is some agreement reached, at least on a process?
Well, I think we have to look what happens on Wednesday and have a reaction to it. There is a very clear remit for the victims commissioners. I don't want that remit interfered with. I think it's a very important job that they have to do, and I think all 4 are very sincere in wanting to deal with it. I don't think this is an issue of one thing replacing another or taking over the responsibilities of another. I think we need to look at it in the overall situation after Wednesday, and again go back to the point that I made at the start, that it has to be victims based. That is very crucial, and it has to do with truth recovery. Whatever about what money might be available for groups or for individuals or whatever, that is the key issue. I think that most, if not all, victims and survivors right across the board, right across the community and right across this island have been talking about.
Gerry Kelly, many thanks indeed.
Thank you.